Tonight, no jab, no play, why our region is playing a vital role in new anti-vaccination laws. And walking for a reason, the Adelaide woman on a journey for charity.
This is Southern Cross News with Fraser Goldsworthy.
Good evening. No jab, no play laws have been introduced into state parliament that will prevent unvaccinated children from entering childcare and other services. It's hoped the laws will help boost vaccination rates and protect young children in our region from diseases. John Hunt has more.
Despite being widely condemned by medicos and the federal government, the so-called dangers of vaccinating children seems to have had an effect on some parents who refuse to protect their children. The state government has introduced legislation that'll ban these children from entering early childhood services. The laws went before Parliament today. It'll require children to be properly vaccinated or be made to go through a catch-up program. There are exemptions, however, for children who are too young, who have immunosuppression or have certain allergies. In a statement, the new Health Minister, Peter Malinauskas, says the laws will protect other children from catching preventable illnesses. Furthermore, it's hoped it'll increase the rate of vaccinations in the community. Parts of regional South Australia are well below the national vaccination rate. A recent report highlights our region only has a 2-year-old vaccination rate of around 85%, well below the state average of 92%. If the laws pass, SA will join New South Wales, Victoria and Queensland in having similar legislation. The laws will now be debated and are expected to pass by the end of the year. And from then, the equation will be simple. No jab, no play.
2 people in Port Lincoln have been arrested and charged with trafficking a commercial quantity of cannabis. The bust comes just days after Patrol seized another haul of the drug, and officers say it's part of a continuing crackdown across the city.
2 pounds of cannabis and 2 people caught just days after another similar seizure. Port Lincoln Police are cracking down on drugs in the region, and they have a stern message for anyone willing to break the law.
We want the drug dealers to know that we're going to target them, we're going to arrest them whenever we can and put them before the courts.
Yesterday, a 44-year-old man and 37-year-old woman from Port Lincoln were arrested after a house search on New West Road allegedly uncovered 2 pounds of cannabis. Both were charged with drug trafficking.
We've certainly increased our proactive efforts, and we are specifically targeting those people who wish to deal drugs in Port Lincoln.
The arrests come just days after another bust in the area. Police say the arrests are linked with a spate of crime sprees across town.
Drugs fuel the house breaks and fuel the car crime. So we're tackling crime at its source. We're tackling those people that want to deal drugs and makes people's life a misery.
Officers are asking for the public's assistance to help lead to further arrests.
We need to work with community in tackling the scourge in our society. We need the public to assist us with information. We need to work together.
Police urge anyone with information to contact Crime Stoppers. Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
Well, Broken Hill has been experiencing some pretty wacky weather over the past month. High temperatures, strong winds and most recently a sudden downpour has many locals wondering what to expect next. Patrick Reinke has more.
Yesterday, Broken Hill was given an unexpected shower from the early evening to late at night. Astoundingly though, the Bureau of Meteorology did not record any rain at its airport station in the city south. It was a different story over the hill though, with rain consistently falling across the night. Broken Hill's wettest September day was back in 1978, when funnily enough, 78 millimetres fell across the city. It has been a month of changing weather in Broken Hill. September started with a run of cool days averaging around 18 degrees. There's been a few days in the mid-20s, but nothing worth breaking a sweat for, until last weekend. On Saturday, the mercury climbed to 36.5 degrees, catching many locals off guard. It was only half a degree off the hottest September day on record, set back in 2003. On the same day, Broken Hill experienced wind gusts of up to 80 kilometres an hour, the fastest of the month so far. Further north, it's been even hotter, with the New South Wales record for September's hottest day being broken twice in a week. It reached 40.5 degrees in Wilcannia on Saturday, beating the old record from 2004. But the mercury reached 40.8 in Burke yesterday, breaking the record once again. Thankfully, no more rain has been forecast this week. Right now, Broken Hill's average temperature is 23.4 degrees, almost 2 more than the averages dating back to the 1950s. However, with low 20s expected over this weekend, this will likely not be the hottest September for Broken Hill on record. But it's certainly a warmer way to start spring than most expected.
Patrick Reinke reporting there. Residents in Port Augusta are being asked to provide feedback to the local police through a Facebook forum. It'll be hosted by the Far North and Outback Local Service Area, which covers everywhere north of Port Augusta, making it one of the largest patrol areas in the country. Officers are asking for comment on the services they provide, as well as discussion on community matters. It'll kick off on Tuesday the 10th of October from 6:30 p.m.
Ask a question, make a suggestion, and play your part in keeping this community a safe and vibrant one.
Still to come in tonight's local news, the Adelaide woman undertaking a mammoth walk from Adelaide to Alice Springs. We'll tell you why next. Welcome back. One Adelaide woman is trying to spread awareness for those living with epilepsy by embarking on a mammoth journey. Sherilyn Beck is walking on foot to Alice Springs and is currently passing through Port Pirie, where she caught up with our Rachel Nell.
Sherilyn's Walk of Hope, covering 1,600 kilometres by walking from one end of the country to the centre, raising money for a cause close to her heart. Her 15-year-old daughter was diagnosed with the disease 3 years ago. That's when Sherilyn discovered a serious lack of support for sufferers.
I wanted to get out there and create more awareness of this condition, and in particular in South Australia and Northern Territory there's no government funding whatsoever, so the Epilepsy Centre relies solely on memberships and donations.
Preparing herself both mentally and physically, Miss Beck is now on day 6 of the walk.
The whole journey is expected about 43 days, give or take a day on each side, so arriving in Alice Springs about the 4th of November.
With no athletic background, she's hoping to inspire others to never give up, no matter how difficult the journey may be.
Doing between 35-40 k's a day. The feet are definitely feeling it, but right now we're in Red Hill, and I hope to get as close as I can to Port Pirie today.
Funds raised will go towards helping to create public awareness campaigns and support for those living with epilepsy and their families.
I think we'll last check the GoFundMe page, it was around the 7,000 mark. We're getting pretty close to it. I mean, ideally I'd love to get 20,000.
If you see her walking along the highway, don't be afraid to say hello.
I'd love them to stop and donate, that would be ideal, but yeah, I'm happy to wave and hear their horns honk. I know that's a sign of support as well.
Next stop for Sherilyn is Mambray Creek before hitting Port Augusta on Sunday night. Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
The Port Lincoln Airport is receiving a $500,000 facelift. The airport is upgrading its runway thanks to a government grant supporting regional aviation.
180,000 passengers touch down on the Eyre Peninsula every year. As the state's second busiest airport, passenger safety remains paramount to the region.
As a busy regional airport, it's important for us to ensure that what we deliver and have on the ground is good and easy to use, efficient to use.
The facelift to seal the runway and revamp parking bays is part of a $500,000 government grant to ensure regional airports stay up to scratch as the lifeblood of the outback.
And it's just showing that we, as a region, are up to date, we have a good gateway to the rest of our region, and it can only be a good thing.
But it comes at a time when passenger numbers are free-falling. Last month, only 13,000 people landed in Port Lincoln, down 1,000 passengers at the same time last year. But the Council of Lower Eyre Peninsula says it's now coordinating a strategy to boost those numbers.
We were happy to talk to the airlines at any time to see what we can do to assist them.
The EP tourism industry is worth $290 million to the state's economy. The government happy to chip in to keep the dollar flowing.
The state benefits from our productivity and we benefit from their grant funding.
Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
Member for Giles, Eddie Hughes, has slammed Whyalla Council for dragging its heels over what to do with a piece of land near the golf club. Council has opened expressions of interest for development on the site, but there are claims the process has taken too long.
Land on the Mad Mile in Whyalla is causing tension between the local council and the local MP. Council has opened expressions of interest on the site for development. That'll hopefully generate new investment.
The council have been really clear with this, that this is all about generating jobs for Whyalla.
However, State MP Eddie Hughes has criticised the process. He says it's taken too long at a time when investors are keen on the land.
They could have called for, in a far more timely fashion, he could have called for expressions of interest.
Mr Hughes is supporting a solar horticulture pilot project on the site that could create over 100 jobs. Reaction was mixed from locals, including the nearby golf club, on rezoning the land from open to industrial space. But Mr Hughes says residents weren't told about the proposal during consultation.
They weren't given any detail about what was proposed.
And he's warned investors are getting frustrated.
Focus on grabbing this opportunity while it is here.
Mr Cowley, however, has defended the time taken on the rezoning process. He says council has a duty to be upfront with locals about all development plans,
so that we can send a clear message to ultimately the successful parties that we are ready to do business for the right partner.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
When we return after the break, breakfast success. A golf day raises vital funds to keep kids' tummies full before school. Welcome back. Broken Hill City Council's Chief Operations Officer has resigned not even 6 months into the job. It comes as the City Council saw the election of a new Deputy Mayor. Patrick Reinke was at last night's council meeting and he filed this report.
Gone after only 5 months. In April, Brendan Smith joined City Council as Chief Operations Officer. At last night's council meeting, it was revealed he pulled the pin 2 weeks ago.
People resign for a number of reasons. When you come to a role, it may not be what you expect, or there may be other opportunities you're going to.
Mr Smith headed up infrastructure, planning, development and compliance, as well as environment and sustainability. He reported to City Council's General Manager, James Ronkin. But a replacement won't be hired just yet.
What we'll do is wait for the General Manager to return from holidays at the end of October, beginning of November, and then we'll start the recruitment process then.
Mayor Turley says due to the Operation Officer's close connection to the General Manager, it would be redundant to hire anyone at the moment.
This position really works strongly with the General Manager. It's really the second in charge, so there is no point recruiting while he's away. It's critical to the role that he participates in the recruitment process, and he needs to choose about who he wants to work with next.
Mayor Turley also says things continue to run smoothly in the absence of the GM.
The staff have stepped up into the mark and they're doing a great job. They're really dedicated anyway, and they're just a little bit of extra work they've been asked to do, and they do it with a smile.
Last night's council meeting also saw a new deputy mayor elected in Marion Brown. Councillor Brown was voted in 6 votes to 4 against fellow councillor Tom Kennedy. She has held the position many times before and says she's excited for what new things lay ahead. Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
A golf day for charity has proven to be a great success in Port Pirie over the weekend. The Rotary Club and local police have teamed up to host the event in order to raise funds to host breakfast clubs at local schools.
Thousands of dollars raised for hungry school kids.
The point of the day was to raise funds for the breakfast clubs here for the schools in Port Pirie. So we raised somewhere between $4,500 and $5,000.
A charity competition at Port Pirie's golf course attracted 17 teams and over 70 people to the event. The breakfast clubs will provide a nutritious meal to students in order to ensure they're ready for a full day of learning ahead.
Both public and private schools, both primary and secondary schools. So there's six schools in the town that run breakfast clubs. So that's where we'll be distributing those funds to.
Breakfast programs in schools provide some fantastic benefits for young people. Certainly it makes sure everybody has a bit of a nutritious start to the day.
The club will be run before school starts for those who arrive early. It's hoped they'll also encourage students to form new social connections with other students outside of the classroom.
We have a number of bus students that travel some distance. Many of them start really early in the mornings, so for them to have just a bit of a top-up with some breakfast at the beginning of a day is a great thing.
Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
All right, time to see what's biting around the Gulf now. Here's Fish and Tips.
Welcome another week around the Gulf Fishing Tips in Port Pirie. A really funny time of year. I mean, we were giving all these little hints that snapper time is on at the moment with the Smelters Picnic happening, and guess what? The wind comes around. So that's good though, because it does stir up the feed for the fish. So my tip for the weekend is go crack it on around the Port Tremaine wreck, try that on for a starter, and then go a little bit further out into the ballast ground area, which we know of. There might be some small mulloway there as well. Now, King George whiting over at Eastern Shoal is still there, and checker buoy, so you do have to work a bit. But remember, if it's a little bit too windy, keep closer to the creeks and try for your salmon trout. There's plenty of those to be had. Blue swimmer crabs aren't too far. If you're going to fish at checker buoy, drop over a crab net, you'll be very surprised at what you get.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. Well, the wild weather over the weekend kept a lot of boaties on shore. We have had some nice weather, but they've always fallen on weekdays. Over the past week, the whiting were pretty tough in the local bays, but the squid were pretty consistent. Down on the south coast, the salmon have been really reliable lately. Moving over to Coffin Bay, Farm Beach has been pretty consistent for whiting. Some nice gummies were picked up on whiting lines as well in that area. The far west coast beaches have started to produce a few gummy sharks and a few school sharks, and there have been a few mulloway caught over the past week as well. That's all for this week. We'll see you again with more fishing tips next week.
Stay with us after the break, a check of the local weather and a mixed bag on the way, Nicole.
Yes, that's right, Fraser. It was a mostly fine day, but there were a few showers about. I'll have all the details next. Welcome back to the weather now. We're seeing the temperatures cool off as showers set in across the region. A top of 23 in Port Augusta today, 20 in Whyalla. Showers about in Port Lincoln and Port Pirie for a top of 21. And rainy weather continuing in Adelaide for 17 degrees. To the satellite now, band of cloud across South Australia with a broad low pressure trough is causing showers and the odd thunderstorm. On the Gulf waters, winds will be southwesterly up to 25 knots. Seas at around 2 metres with sunrise just a minute past 6, sunset getting later and later at 19 past 6. A fine day in most places tomorrow with clear skies in Port Augusta for 26. A bit cooler in Whyalla reaching 24, 23 in Broken Hill. Showers continuing in Port Lincoln and Coffin Bay hitting a top of 19 degrees. Looking ahead, showers hanging around all weekend in Port Lincoln. A bit of a nicer outlook in Cleve with clear skies for 19 on Saturday and much the same in Woodena before warming up Tuesday reaching 26 degrees. In Whyalla, still pretty mild with a top of 21 to kick off the weekend. Clear skies continuing in Port Augusta, nudging 30 degrees on Monday. And a good day to stay inside and watch the footy on Saturday in Kadina. Showers on the way for 18 degrees. In Port Pirie, pretty cool over the weekend with a top of 20 degrees, dropping down to a top of 16 on Saturday in Clare with showers on the way and sunny weather in Broken Hill, but still pretty cool for 21 over the weekend. So Fraser, it's cooled off quite a bit, but it'll be warming up again after the weekend.
Thanks, Nicole. And that's Southern Cross News for this Thursday. Thanks for joining us. I'll be back a little later tonight with updates. Until then, have a lovely evening. Good night.